This guy was about to go batshit crazy when some villain he had just found out was selling his daughter into sex trafficking. Now, this is real life, for the whole thing just reminds you of a very bad version of the movie Taken. You know, Taken, Liam Neeson, and how he went all bananas on some pimps, breaking things and life-deleting several people? Because his daughter was kidnapped? Something in that direction, but without any sense.
What?
So, his name is John EISENMAN, and he was pretty much middle-aged by this time, but that has never stopped anyone from being colossally stupid. You see, just a few days back, he had received a call from his daughter asking him to come get her in Seattle. And he was like, Seattle? She wasn't supposed to be there. She was supposed to be in Spokane. But once he heard her voice and how distraught she sounded, he immediately dropped all questioning, and like a good father, he got running. His girl was in trouble. She needed rescuing, and he was going to provide it no matter the cost. So he took off, taking his girlfriend and the adopted mother of this daughter along. That is this woman here. Her name is Cross. So they went to Seattle, but by the time they got back, he was mad as hell, having been told how the teenage girl, let's call her Shady, because you will find out later that she's a little shady. Anyway, how she had been set up by her boyfriend to be prostituted for money. That is this boyfriend here. His name, Andrew. Now, just like Liam in the movie, John also believed that a man must be willing to do terrible things and be prepared to suffer terrible consequences, all in the defense of his little girls. So he decided right there and then that Andrew Sorensen had to be live deleted.
What?
And so, he set off on the task and surveilled his mark for a day or two. And then when he realized that this terrible guy was going to be at a mobile home somewhere on the edge of town, he decided to lay an ambush for him there. So he got his girlfriend, this woman, Cross, to approach the boy, who surprisingly was just a 19-year-old fella, same age as his daughter. Anyways, the girlfriend distracted the boy with small talk and a map. Then when the boy wasn't looking, EISENMAN sneaked up behind him and knocked him to the ground, almost unconscious. Then quickly, they bound him with zip ties. Andrew was not exactly a small man, so it took both the couple quite some effort to haul him into the trunk of the car. He had just achieved a temporary victory, and no, he wasn't satisfied yet, and neither was his girlfriend. So he brought out a cinder block that he had kept aside, and in one fell swoop, BAM! Smashed it on the boy's head. And of course, it became a bloody mess immediately. Because, hey, come on, it's a cinder block. But EISENMAN still didn't stop. He hit the boy over and over and over again. And then when he got tired, Cross, his girlfriend, took over from him, and they laughed and mocked because the boy just begged and cried. And that tickled them to no end. Anyways, finally, EISENMAN brought out his knife. He, by this time, was so pumped by the imagination of him being the perfect portrayal of that fiendish archetype of a defender father who will go all John Wick on anyone for his daughter's honor. So he plunged the knife into Andrew's belly as the boy lay there and stabbed him again and again and again. Until, unfortunately, Andrew Sorensen's life drained out and he became live deleted. And then the following day, EISENMAN drove the Honda to a remote location far up north and abandoned it there with the body still in the trunk. Who does that? Nothing interesting will happen for the next 11 months until somehow someone found the car and drove it back to town, realized that it smelled really funky, and then abandoned it again. To cut the long story short, the body was discovered, and since the vehicle was registered to EISENMAN, it was easy to quickly start looking around for him for answers. At first, he said the car had been stolen, which was just too predictable. So that didn't impress the police much. Then he said he had no idea whose body it was or where it came from, but that was also a hard sell because the body was immediately recognized to be that of his daughter's boyfriend who had gone missing since about a year before. And so EISENMAN clamped up and stopped talking, but it was a little bit too late. Before then, he had never been the type to not seek local glory for his perceived acts of machismo. In his vainglorious bluster, he had earlier blabbed to some neighbors about how he was such a stand-up guy and how he had killed a predator man who was pimping his daughter. And now that the body was discovered, it didn't take long for that neighbor to put two and two together and to place an urgent call to the police. And so, bam! EISENMAN was arrested. But he didn't feel bad. In fact, he seemed to be glorying in what he had done. So, he brazenly admitted it once he was cornered. I kind of suspect he wanted to be found out actually, because, come on, who leaves a dead body in a vehicle that is registered to him? I kind of suspect that image of a hero father was just so exhilarating for him that he wished that everybody would know that he was it. Yes, he said, he killed the boy because the boy was pimping his daughter, using her as an ex-slave. And like he had projected in his mind, he instantly became a local celebrity within his circle of pseudo-macho friends. It worked! He started getting portrayed as that dad, that all-American badass, the cowboy who shot from the hip, the man who would stand against anything, even commit crimes, to protect his family. Don't mess with him! And people started donating money to his GoFundMe account, and in no time, you wouldn't believe it, he had raised over $60,000. It looked like everything was going his way. Except there really had been no ex-trafficking, no prostitution, no slavery, and no pimping. Andrew Sorensen was just an awkward 19-year-old kid who had pissed off his girlfriend by not behaving in the ways that she had wanted him to. She was mad at him and had manipulated her broad over common sense father into doing the unthinkable. You see, life had been kind of unfair to Andrew since birth. He was born with cerebral palsy, and then as he approached his teenage years, bam! He got diagnosed with autism. Anyways, he was all happy-go-lucky. He loved people. He made friends with the homeless people all the time. And that was how he actually met Shady, EISENMAN's daughter.
Yes, she was homeless and struggling when he took her in. And then at some point, Shady won a settlement for an accident that she had suffered shortly before their meeting, and she was awarded $20,000, which to her then was quite a windfall.
Now, how do you think those kind of 19-year-olds would spend such a $20,000? Of course, on something stupid and pretty much wasteful.
So, she first bought a car, and then she got her boyfriend, Andrew, and a few other friends on a joyride to the big city of Seattle. And there, they partied and drank and did drugs. You get the picture? They were all over the place, and then at some point, Andrew was supposed to go pick up some other acquaintances somewhere, and he got careless and someone stole the car from him. Unfortunately, all their phones and monies were in it, and as a result, they all effectively became stranded. Andrew couldn't call or get back to Shady. Remember, he had just lost the car and their phones. She also had no idea where he was or what had happened to him, so she got mad. All the other friends eventually managed to find their ways back home to Spokane, but Shady, she was still mad as hell. With Andrew, that is. Even when she got back home to her father, she talked about how much she wanted to kill him. So she fed her father the story of a predator pimp who was prostituting her around because she knew that he was an idiot and she knew how easily she could wrap him up around her little finger. So he behaved exactly as programmed, and Andrew paid the ultimate price. Anyways, after everything was laid bare,
Cross admitted that there really was no evidence that suggested that Shady had been prostituted by Andrew or had been trafficked by him. So, the vicious murder of Andrew Sorensen had been for absolutely nothing. Idiota, this guy, he was arrested and tried, and quite unlike Liam Neeson, I must say, he was found guilty of first-degree murder and was sentenced to 22 years in prison. And Cross, his girlfriend, she got second-degree manslaughter and was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Now, this one is a pretty awful one, but such is life. Invariably, life is not fair. No! But there is always a lesson to be learned. For me, in this one, I'll say, as a man, understand that ultra macho archetype of a no-nonsense shooting from the hip and taking no prisoners man, that archetype is It's just a made up fantasy designed to appeal to our emotions and ego. When you have a mindset that is turned towards that fantasy, you will easily be manipulated. And if you're not careful, you will do horrible things and get into really, really bad trouble because in real life,
John Wick does not exist.
and also, I know that I may get into trouble for this one, but still, it's gotta be said. Be careful when the loved women in your life, spouses, daughters, or mothers, tell you stories that hurt. Always take a moment. And that's it, folks. Now, if you see any other lessons here, please share them with us in the comment section. I'm sure we can use it. Cheers and subscribe.